This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth, for competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty, for the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. As usual, lots of things happening, lots of things to be very troubled about that we have to fight. We, the American people, need to rise up. We need to wage a second American revolution, peacefully and legally. I write about that in my new book. It Takes a Revolution. Forget the Scandal Industry. You can pre-order it at Amazon.com, at BarnesandNoble.com, at BooksAMillion.com, at Borders.com, all over the place. You've got to read it. I talk about it on my weekly podcasts. I'm not doing this for profit. I doubt that I'll make much, if anything, frankly, in the end. But it's very important to educate the American people, in addition to what Freedom Watch does and AmericasSheriff.org does with Sheriff Arpaio to protect the police. Because if we don't do it, if we don't rise up ourselves, if we just basically seek entertainment on Fox News and places like that, this country will cease to exist. And we, the American people, hold our future in our own hands. And consequently, I'm bringing on today Dr. JUDY MIKOVITS, who's giving you the straight scoop on COVID-19, on what's really out there, what's happening. But just yesterday, or earlier in the week, presidential candidate Joe Biden blames the president and says, but for the president's actions or inactions, no one in this country would have died. Now, not only is the guy brain dead, not only does he likely have the onset of Alzheimer's, or maybe he's got something even worse. I mean, who knows? But this is really frightening. And I am so fed up, and I said this on my daily podcast just last Friday, at everyone lying to the American people. It's gotten to the point that you can't believe anything the government says or anything that either political party says. And the president, and to be honest, and I've said this before, you know, I love the president. I support the president. He has not supported me. He's not supported Freedom Watch, but I've been there for him for the last 4 years, probably kept from him by Roger Stone, okay, that despicable individual, frankly, who should have done time, shouldn't have been commuted. I have a history with him. I've talked about it before, but this is who the president's hung with. And it's preventing him, people like that, from getting the true information that the president needs to make good decisions. And I'm not just talking about Roger Stone. I'm talking about others around him that are not serving him well. I do like Mark Meadows, the chief of staff. I have communicated with him. I sent him stuff with regard to Dr. JUDY MIKOVITS. I haven't heard back. And frankly, I don't expect that I will hear back, because anytime anyone speaks out and anytime anybody thinks it's controversial, it gets shut off by the Republican establishment, who basically are just interested in getting the president reelected so they can continue to cash in at the money trough in Washington, D.C., and acquire more power. You think the Republicans are any different than the Democrats? They're only different in terms of ideology. Okay, and the Democrats certainly, in their current form, are an evil bunch. They want to turn this country into a socialist, if not communist, state. They worship at the altar of Karl Marx. They allow radical groups to destroy our cities. Now they're coming into the suburbs and threatening the lives of you and your loved ones and others. They've pushed a cancel culture that means that you can't be critical of anyone simply because of his race or his minority status. There is no equality here. The country has devolved into exactly what Ayn Rand predicted in Atlas Shrugged. And I urge you to go read that book or get the audio or watch the movies, which aren't the best. They're B movies, but you can get them on Netflix or Amazon.com or whatever. But we have come to a situation in this country where we can't even resolve our problems because we can't speak. We're not allowed to communicate. And those people who do communicate, even the ones who are critical, like Tucker Carlson, I've had a long history with Tucker Carlson. I know him going way back. He's the first one who wrote the first hit piece against me at Judicial Watch. He set me up for that. He was writing for Time magazine, so he was kissing the derriere of Time magazine. Then he went to work for CNN, and he was doing Crossfire for a while. I remember one time I was on, and he was criticizing me because of all the cases I brought against Bill Clinton. Well, he's had a number of incantations, and he's morphed into a lot of different aspects of things. It's based on his profit. It's based on his notoriety. And frankly, he's the one that ran interference for Roger Stone. He was a surrogate. He actually violated court orders. They, in effect, threatened witnesses. They held him out at risk. He's not a good person, to be blunt, but he is bright, okay? And sometimes he comes forward with things. And just last week, he came forward with this Chinese scientist, Dr. Li Meng Yi, who's been doing interviews throughout the world, who can attest that the coronavirus, COVID-19, was manufactured in that lab in Wuhan, China. And Dr. MIKOVITS is going to talk about it. Judy's going to talk about it. Now, we've known this all along. And it was your Freedom Watch that brought a class action in Dallas, Texas, for people who, which is basically everybody. We don't know if you'll qualify for that suit, so sign up. Go to freedomwatchusa.org because it is in Texas, and we have another one in Jerusalem, Israel, for the Israelis. And we have a criminal case in The Hague, Holland at the International Criminal Court. But we were the ones that really put our foot forward. And this is what I'm talking about. We brought the lawsuits. But is there any mention by Tucker Carlson of that? No. Now, whether you like Larry Klayman or not, whether Larry Klayman has had issues with Fox News, I've had them going back all the way to Roger Ailes. I've represented women that Roger Ailes sexually harassed, abused, and extorted sex from. Regardless of that, the news is the news, and the people deserve to know. And it's people like Tucker Carlson or like Sean Hannity on Fox News that hide things from the American people, that make things personal, and are not telling the truth. 18 U.S.C. 1001, the false statement statute in the United States, makes it actionable, for perjury or criminal prosecution, not only if you don't tell the truth under oath, but if you withhold material facts. Now, material facts are being withheld from the American people. And Twitter does it, the left does it, but the right is also doing it. Fox News is doing it. Newsmax does it. Newsmax is run by Chris Ruddy, who gave $1 million to the Clinton Foundation. Don't be fooled. That's no conservative network. And it's a network which, when I wrote for it, and I've known Chris Ruddy a long time. I actually have a lawsuit against him for allegedly defaming Jerry Corsi, and as well as Newsmax. And they're trying to wriggle out of it, but they're not going to be able to in the end. But they play both sides of the street, just like Ruddy gave money, $1 million, to the Clinton Foundation. And this is why Radio America is so important, because they let me tell the truth as I see it. And it's why you are so important, because you have to be discerning. You cannot just swallow the Kool-Aid. And that's why you also have to be critical. Just don't follow. Okay, lead, follow, or get out of the way. Lee Iacocca, the head of Chrysler, used to say, former head, is that we just can't take even what's coming out of the Trump White House. We have to ourselves analyze, act as American citizens, seek the truth, get our president to do the right thing, because he gets bad advice. Generally speaking, he's got a few good ones. Kellyanne Conway, I think, served him well. I think Stephen Miller in the White House serves him well. He had people like Steve Bannon around him for a while. And of course, Bannon's been indicted recently for alleged fraud with regard to fundraising and things like that. But he needs good people around him. And he has some good people around him. I think Pompeo, Secretary of State, is doing a good job with Israel. Like I said, Mark Meadows is trying to do a good job in difficult situations. But the people are not being served. And that's why I want you to listen carefully to what Dr. Judy Mikovits has to say. And then we've got the left. We've got people out there who are so vile, so vicious, so wanting to destroy anyone who disagrees with them, that if you say anything, you're destroyed and your credibility is zero. And I see that with a lot of my clients. I've seen it with Sheriff Joe Arpaio, how they try to destroy him. That's why we now form this group, America's Sheriff. Go to americassheriff.com, sign up. It's to protect the police. It's to bring cases for them. It's not just to talk, but we do educate. We need a police force. Our country is going to burn. It's going to go up in flames if and when President Trump wins. We have to be prepared for that. Look at the falsehoods that are being spewed forth by Attorney General Barr with regard to the John Durham investigation. Nothing's going to happen there. As I predicted, they burned a lower level guy. You know, it's already too late. And if the president loses the election, that'll go by the wayside as well. Prosecutors have already left that investigation, you know, because they disagree with what Durham's doing. You know what they disagreed with? Not that he brought indictments, just that the Attorney General asked to issue a report before the election for political purposes. Clearly, it was for political purposes. And it's fine if that's the effect, but we want real results. It's your Freedom Watch that has citizens' grand juries that hold the people accountable. We already indicted Mueller. When the virus subsides, we're going to be meeting again, indicting others, trying them, convicting them, and seeking to mete it out peacefully and legally, the convictions. We have a right for citizens' arrests. We can arrest people and turn them over to the authorities. Of course, what do the authorities do then? So these are the conundrums. And it is our right to protect our country peacefully and legally. I'm going to be right back with the second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, because, you know, the left wants to take Larry Klayman out because they think that if Biden's elected and Harris is elected, that Klayman is going to be the big thorn in the side. And believe me, I'll be the thorn inside to everyone, not just the Democrats. So I'll be right back with Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Fearless.
He's claiming he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
He don't care, he uses the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad,
Special Prosecutor
very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
This week, the left, you know, upped the ante with regard to yours truly. You know, I have been a practicing lawyer for over 40 years. I'm a member in good standing continuously of the Florida bar and other bars until recently with the DC bar, who was trying to take me out. Okay, now I'm not going to roll over. I'm going to enforce my rights, and they're not going to succeed at doing it. Just like they tried with President Trump, the left tries with people like Larry Klayman and others. And as a result of a proceeding that I had this week, an individual by the name of Josh Gerstein of the Politico wrote a story which was highly defamatory. And I had to threaten him with suit to have him make small modifications. But here's the bottom line. And I'll be writing an article about this shortly. I'll be taking further action. I believe he was collaborating with people in Bar Disciplinary Council. In fact, he admits that in his article, and that's unethical. They're not allowed to do that. Bar Disciplinary Council, by the way, in the District of Columbia, as in some jurisdictions, many, is highly leftist. The head of it gave a lot of money to Obama and Clinton. And recently, even though I'm not a big fan of Attorney General Bill Barr, 4 former DC Bar presidents filed an ethics complaint against Barr because of his position with regard to General Mike Flynn and statements that he made in cable news. Previously, a complaint had been filed by 16 leftist bar professors that were seriously considered against Kellyanne Conway for comments that she made on MSNBC. Yet at the same time, Bar Disciplinary Council took no action with regard to David Kendall, who helped Hillary Clinton destroy 33,000 emails. That's called obstruction of justice. So every step of the way, the left is trying to take out people of faith, conservatives, libertarians, because they're trying to clear the path for the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who will then bring in a Marxist administration, taking this country even beyond socialism into the edges of communism. And this is what they're doing. Now, Larry Klayman, yours truly, will not roll over. Larry Klayman fights. You need to fight. They're trying to take you out. They're trying to take your families out. They're trying to take everything that you own out. And this is the war that we have today, because you can see these radical leftists of every race, color, religion, sexual persuasion, radicals on the left trying to destroy this country and take it down. And it's not enough, as I've said before, to watch Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson or Laura Ingraham or watch Newsmax, the two-faced Newsmax with Chris Ruddy. It's not enough to do that. You have to rise up. Now, why am I sometimes critical of people who appear to be on our side? Because you see, you're being deceived. You're being given incomplete and or false information. And you need to yourself analyze what's going on, like the colonialists did in 1776 and the years leading up to our first revolution, and decide for yourself, are you going to sit there and watch as the country goes down in flames? Are you going to sit there and watch as radical leftists come to your neighborhood and demand the keys to your house and the keys to your car? Are you going to sit there and watch when they come and harm you and your family and perhaps even kill them? People are dying in the streets, not just police, but ordinary people. And this is just the beginning. This is how a Bolshevik revolution begins, but it's not how it's going to end, because you see, God is on our side. And if we do it for ourselves, we will get the job done. And that's why I want you to pre-order the book, okay? It's not expensive. It's in paperback. It takes a revolution. Forget the scandal industry. Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com, all over. Because unlike Sean Hannity, who wrote his book, Live Free or Die. I call it Live Free or Lie, because he tells you all you have to do is vote for Trump and everything's going to be okay. That's what he says. Usual monologue ends with, let's not throw Granny over the cliff. That's what the Democrats do. He had his staff write the book. It's quite obvious. He didn't write it himself. It's just a regurgitation of things. Now, we don't need to regurgitate. We need to take affirmative action going forward. So I'm going to be right back with Dr. Judy MIKOVITS. Now, here's somebody you need to listen to, because we need to straighten this whole thing, hold this entire mess out with regard to COVID-19 and bring justice to the Chi-Coms for destroying this country and destroying your lives. I'll be right back.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with Dr. Judy MIKOVITS, my client, my friend, an American hero, because she comes forward to tell the truth about the coronavirus known as COVID-19. Now, there's been a lot of talk this week about a Chinese scientist who's come forward by the name of Li Meng Yang, and I'm sure she's heard about it. It's consistent with testimony that she's given before under oath in a sworn affidavit that we've submitted to courts in Dallas, Texas, and Jerusalem, Israel. We have class action lawsuits against the Chinese to redress the damage that has been caused. The damage to health, the damage to our economy, the damage to our emotional well-being. The government does nothing. I don't care whether it's President Trump. I don't care whether it's the Democrats in Congress. Nobody does anything. Occasionally we see Senator Tom Cotton speak, so he gets his face on Fox News, but that's about it. He doesn't do anything either. The whole thing is a sham, as Woody Allen would say, a mockery of a travesty of a sham, of a travesty, of a mockery. I think I may have gotten that wrong, but I got the point. But Dr. Mikovits talks clearly. Yet she has been banned by Twitter and social media. No one wants to hear what she has to say. The left is in control of it because they don't want to hear the truth, because they want to take the president down based on COVID-19. They claim he's not doing a good job. Candidly, he could have done a better job, that's for sure. But to have the brain-dead Biden as president, it's going to be a real problem. He says nobody should have died at all. So I want to throw these questions out to Dr. Mikovits, to Judy, and I want to get her response to what's been going on lately with COVID-19, what's happening with whistleblowers coming forward from Chinese labs in Wuhan, Dr. Fauci, the whole 9 yards, because from Judy, you're going to get the truth. You're not going to get it from our government or, frankly, in the media that at least speaks with two faces and forked tongue. Judy, let's straighten everybody out right now. What's going on?
The pandemic and the plague of corruption continues as the Chinese doctor has come out the second time. She actually came out in the beginning and told the same story, so the stories don't change. More importantly, in the last weeks with the August 18th premiere of Plandemic Indoctrination by Mickey Willis, he brings in Dr. David Martin from the University of Virginia, an expert on patents, law, and the rights. And he talks about in the film, really showing side by side how the media planned this entire thing called COVID-19, to cover up the origins of the virus, to cover up that actually they've been, Dr. Fauci and, the Chinese lab in Wuhan have been doing this since 2003. In an amazing interview that Brian Rose did with Dr. Martin, an extension, and I believe he did it just this past week. I saw it yesterday. So Dr. Martin goes even deeper, and you can find that at freedomplatform.tv/Martin. And he goes into Moderna and the vaccine and an incredible, since 2003, they wrote a patent saying they had knowledge of the release of the virus, of the construction here in a patent application. So none of this is my opinion, nor Dr. Martin's, but the exposure of the lies and the extensive planning that has gone into the monopoly and the fraud, really, and crimes, literally crimes, treasonous crimes committed by Doctors Fauci and the players in this game. And essentially every one of the vaccine companies is using the vectors of Moderna. And last week, an AstraZeneca trial had the second serious adverse reaction of transverse myelitis, which is an inflammation of the spinal cord, again, associated with some of the contaminants in the cell lines where the viruses are being grown, the monkey kidney cells that came from Fort Detrick and Tony Fauci, a critical part of my affidavit. Now Dr. Martin backs it up with excruciatingly detailed records. It was so surprising to me when I saw this. More than $1 billion in crimes from 2003 by Moderna, and the clear connection of the money and the fraud in patents by the Centers for Disease Control, where the patent office said no patents. So in fact, nothing's been done by Moderna and Fauci legally since 2003. And we know.
Let's see if we can break this down. Okay. Let's go back, and then we'll go back to this issue as well about the profiteering on these vaccines that are coming out, the lack of safety on the vaccines, why people have to be, very reticent about taking them. But let's go back to this Chinese scientist and what you've had to say. And the fact that it is most likely engineered in China, it's most likely a bioweapon. Our government will not confront the issue. Our government will not confront China as we continue to be destroyed. Either whether it's an actual fact or whether it's just the mentality of what's going on with regard to how people are reacting, their emotions, their walks of life, and also with regard to their health. So why is it you think that the government has been covering this thing up, Judy? Why? All sectors of the economy, and I personally support the president. I personally want to see him reelected, but I got to be critical here because I see him just playing games, and I don't see any action here with regard to the Chinese and holding them accountable.
Holding the Chinese accountable is what we said, and we showed the data from the publications. We showed the collusion of, the Centers for Disease Control, Doctors Lipkin and Fauci under Dr. Fauci and NIH direction. We showed the money that went to the Barrick lab and working the virus, the cell line, the monkey kidney cell line, coming from Fort Detrick in the beginning. We showed this all on the Epoch Times documentary that Joshua Phillips premiered on April 8th. So all the way back there, it was very clear that the virus was engineered in the very simple sense that I said, that you're accelerating the evolution by using this manufacturing plant, these cell lines that have monkey viruses like HIV relative simian immune deficiency virus and others, including the XMRVs, and very, very clearly transverse myelitis and all of these things we're seeing with the vaccine are activating the latent infection. So as I've said all along, this is really a cover-up of 3 decades of crimes by Tony Fauci, the CDC, the FDA, the corruption in the FDA. So Tony Fauci comes out and says, oh, yeah, we support your immune system with vitamin C and vitamin D. And Robert Redfield this past weekend, oh, yeah, the mask, that plastic mask that's sprayed with Teflon, that's sprayed with toxic fluoride compounds, PTFEs, and we're seeing blood levels, those in people wearing them. And so the people they injured, the military, the first responders, the healthcare workers, me, the autistic kids, the people who are carrying these deadly retroviruses and other RNA viruses are going to be the first to die with that vaccine. So the cover-up is so much more, and data that Dr. Martin showed, literally I knew nothing about this until I saw this yesterday, the interview with Brian Rose and David Martin on freedomplatform.tv. It shows literally decades long of planning and billions of theft of taxpayers' intellectual property, all the things I was saying from the scientific point of view that I had simply no idea the extent.
Notwithstanding Anthony Fauci, okay, the president inherited Anthony Fauci, unfortunately. He was there. He was in a position of control, of authority. Why is it, do you think, that the Trump administration is not listening to you and others like you? Why are they taking no action? Why are they sitting back and allowing the communist Chinese to destroy the country and the world?
Yeah, the communist Chinese in collaboration with Tony Fauci. Anyway,
right.
But why?
How do you explain the inaction? And I support the president, but how do you explain it? Is it that he's afraid to say that the origins of COVID-19 started in this country, that he's been told? Has he been threatened? Has he been blackmailed? What do you think the reason is?
I think, fear of being wrong, of not being able to connect the dots. And of course, these are deadly viruses, and the measures that are taken are making them more deadly. The lockdowns, the masks, the flu vaccines, which we know. And this is what was in the movie Plandemic. So when I see Mr. Trump, and he's taking hydroxychloroquine, and yet the American people are denied it. And we know the half-life's 22 days, so 1 pill a month would protect every American, and it would be a natural strategy to prevent the next virus coming down the line. So I can't really explain why except giving Mr. Trump a clear action item. And this is what David Martin did, I'll say yesterday, because I saw it yesterday. He said the Attorney General Barr could right now write all of the criminal acts and expose the criminal acts and say right now to America, stop everything. You know, we literally caught them. Here is all the evidence, and put our country back together. No more masks, no flu shots, no shot at all until safety testing. And we go back. We literally close the FDA, who's, you know, preventing therapies, preventing those very natural immune boosters from getting to the people. So Dr. Martin gave us a solution that is legally defensible. And if the Attorney General, I'm just hoping by talking to you today that we can get this information to Mr. Trump, because again, the details I don't know whether or not he's seen or knows Dr. Martin and could bring him in. The Congress could bring him in tomorrow, and we could.
Well, this is the problem. We have 2 minutes left on the segment, Judy, but this is the problem with the Washington establishment. They provide false information. They do cover-ups. The president's getting bad advice. He's so preoccupied with a number of different things, mainly to get reelected. He doesn't want to give bad news to the American people. He wants to give them hope, saying there's a vaccine that's going to be a be-all and end-all, or saying, gee, it's going to go away on its own, which it's not. We know it's not going to go away on its own. And on the other side of the coin, you've got Joe Biden. I want to get your thoughts on this. Presidential candidate, brain dead presidential candidate, who probably has the onset of Alzheimer's. He probably won't last long in office. And Kamala Harris will take control if they win. But he says, if Trump had done the right thing, no one would die. Well, that's not true, is it? I mean, he just mentioned people who were at risk here. I mean, there is a risk. And he's telling the American people that the president's at fault, that, you know, he could have saved every single life in this country. That's not right, is it?
It's absolutely not true. President Trump did all the right things. Stop travel to China, use hydroxychloroquine, use the preventive measures, and he was stopped chlorine dioxide at every step of the way. He was laughed at and stopped. The masks are killing people. He tried to stop that as well. The masks are driving the disease because they destroy the immune system, not support it.
Well, you told me early on to take vitamin C and vitamin D and to get sunlight, and I've been doing that, But Fauci just comes out with it last week for the first time and tells people that maybe that's a good idea. Anyway, we have 10 seconds. I want to thank you, Judy, for coming on. You are, in my opinion, a hero. Keep fighting. I'm fighting with you as your lawyer and Kent Heckenlively and others. We will tell the truth in the end, and we will get results in the end. Thank you.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Now the verdict. Guilty is charged. Our government, our media networks, left, right, and center, people who sit there and do nothing, who just watch, they're guilty as charged. The country is in dire straits. This COVID-19 crisis is going to continue on and on and on. We don't get clear messages from any source, whether it's from the president or whether it's from Biden, who says, gee, nobody needed to die, okay? You need to start thinking for yourself, as I've said. It's not a question of left or right. It's not a question of the National Football League or the American Football League, the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. It's a question of the American Party, of we, the people. We need to rise up. The power was given to us. We have these representatives serve at our pleasure. They're supposed to do what we think is right. But for them to know what to do is right, we have to know what's right. And we have to force it upon them. And that's what we tried to do peacefully and legally at Freedom Watch and americasheriff.org. Because if we don't act, this country, as I said earlier in this show, and I've been saying on my podcast, is about to go up in flames. We're sitting on the deck of the Titanic listening to the music as the ship of state is sinking. If you think it can't happen here, like it happened in ancient Rome or in Greece or in other places, civilizations, you're wrong. Look who our leaders are. We have no leaders. We only have ourselves. And that's what you got to realize. And that's why I've been pushing reading my book, because you need to understand just how corrupt the executive branch is, the deep state. I go through historically in modern history, show you how many times we've been lied to, how many times Americans have been sacrificed in needless wars, how many times presidents have gotten us into difficulty because that was good for them, not good for the American people. And I'm not just talking about presidents, but others, talking about the deep state and the intelligence agencies that are more powerful than the president himself, more powerful than anyone except we the people. We're more powerful. Then I get into the court jesters, the clowns in Congress. I mean, look at Pelosi, a moron, okay? I mean, the woman, frankly, I mean, she may not be brain dead yet, but she's had so many facelifts. I think that's what she spends her time doing, going to the beauty parlor and facelifts, because she has no common sense, and she's mean, she's vile, she's a witch. She's on the par with Hillary Clinton. The two of them stir their cauldron on a daily basis. And then you've got the Republicans, who are a bunch of clowns that haven't come through on anything that they've promised. Nothing, zip, nada. Not even the judges of Mitch McConnell. And I discussed that in my book, It Takes a Revolution. You think these Trump judges are great? No, they're not. They have no courage. They're the product of the establishment. The president rubber stamped what was put on his desk. They have no guts. And they want to be advanced. They have to curry favor from both sides, or they'll be blocked in the U.S. Senate for a higher post, perhaps an appellate court or some other appointment. They are the product of political largesse, campaign contributions by special interests. What do we do when we don't have judges that will protect us? So all three branches of government are broken down, and I give concrete ways that we can proceed. And It Takes a Revolution. Forget the scandal industry. Again, go out and buy it. Pre-order it. It'll come out October 27th, but go ahead and get it now because copies will be scarce, and you need to read it. It's your manifesto. It's not a communist manifesto. It's a manifesto for the American people, and it's not a be-all and end-all. It's meant to provoke thought, interaction, and to get people to understand that we have to bear peaceful and legal arms. We have to rise up again, as Jefferson predicted we would have to, not to shed the blood of patriots, as he said was going to happen, because in fact our blood is going to be shed unless we don't rise up. We want to avoid violence. But yes, we have to coalesce, and we have to do what we have to do right now, because time is short. Maybe people like myself who are 69 years old will make it across the finish line to the promised land, heaven. So let's hope I go to heaven. I won't be the judge of that. That's up to God and his son. But you know what? Our kids and grandkids, they're in the deep. You know what? They're going to have a country that is going to be like hell. So that's my message for this week. Thank you for listening to me. Join Freedom Watch at freedomwatchusa.org, a Justice League. See if you qualify for a citizens class actions. Go to americasheriff.org. Protect the police so they can protect us. And if not, we need to protect ourselves. And God bless you. God save your family. And I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Until then, thank you for listening to me.